When Tiger Woods walked into a packed federal courtroom in downtown Atlanta, nobody expected what came next. Not the judge, not the media, and definitely not the smug attorneys sharpening their knives. Most thought he'd crumble under pressure, that he'd fumble, fold, or flash a weak celebrity smile. But Tiger didn't come to play defense. He came locked, loaded, and legally lethal. What the court assumed was a golf icon on trial turned out to be a silent assassin with a legal mind trained in the shadows. And when a racist judge tried to break him, Tiger didn't blink. He broke the system instead. What followed wasn't a trial. It was a reckoning. The cameras weren't the only things aimed at Tiger Woods that morning. But before we dive in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. The courtroom lights burned hot, unforgiving, casting long shadows across polished oak and power-soaked silence. Tiger stood at the defense table, not in cleats, not gripping a 9-iron, but in a tailored gray suit, hands folded, jaw tight. There were no greens here. Just concrete floors, whispered smirks, and a judge with a reputation that preceded him like a bad smell. Judge Barrett Cole, a relic wrapped in a robe. His resume read like a time capsule, Ivy League arrogance, rulings that disproportionately favored the powerful, and a pattern of snide remarks that danced just shy of being censurable. He'd once called a civil rights attorney too emotional for federal court. Another time he'd fined a Latina juror for slowing down the proceedings with her accent. And now? He had Tiger Woods in his sights. The charge? Breach of fiduciary duty, tied to a corporate board position Tiger had accepted at a sports equity firm. After speaking publicly about redirecting diversity funding in elite golf institutions, a wave of backlash followed. Sponsors pulled out, stock dipped, and suddenly the lawsuit came crashing in. $30 million in damages. Corporate sabotage, they called it. But this wasn't just a courtroom drama. It was a trap. A high-profile spectacle designed not to test his actions but to break his image. The headlines were already written. Golfer fumbles in court. Tiger's downhill swing. But Tiger didn't walk in to be humiliated. He walked in with something no one expected. Not a legal team, not a PR army, just himself. And a plan. Before we dive back into the story, I've got a quick favor to ask. I'm working toward a goal of hitting 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and every single one counts. It would mean the world if you'd hit that subscribe button. All right, back to the story. He hadn't even finished his third sentence. Tiger stood before the court, voice composed but firm, beginning to outline the timeline of board meetings, vote counts, and policy conflicts. But before his evidence could even breathe, the interruption came, sharp, smug, and soaked in disdain. "Stick to golf, Mr. Woods," Judge Cole said, waving his hand like he was swatting a fly. "This isn't a press conference, and you're not in Augusta." The words dropped heavy, then silence, then the murmurs. Reporters scribbled, some hiding smirks. In the gallery, a corporate rep leaned over to whisper something that made his colleague snort. Cole, meanwhile, leaned back in his chair like a man who had just delivered a punchline. Tiger didn't flinch. "Your Honor, I'm citing Board Bylaw 4.2, which clearly outlines the—" "Enough," Cole snapped. "This court will not indulge amateur theatrics. If you don't have licensed counsel, you'll keep your exhibits to yourself." Tiger's hand, mid-reach toward a folder of documents, froze in midair. Cole's eyes narrowed. "That's a $5,000 fine for courtroom misconduct," he declared, slamming the gavel once, not for order, but for dominance. "Effective immediately." Gasps, the kind of sound that says more than words ever could. Tiger slowly set the folder back on the table. His face? Still calm. But in his eyes, something had shifted. Not panic, not fear. Calculation. This wasn't justice. It was performance art. And Cole wasn't here to preside. He was here to demean. But what he didn't know was that the man he just tried to humiliate hadn't come to play defense. He came to redefine the rules of engagement. And this was just the warm-up swing. Before the $1 million endorsements, before the green jackets and Sunday red, there was a dorm room with books stacked higher than trophies. Stanford, 1994. Tiger Woods, 18, unstoppable and already a myth in motion, but not the myth everyone assumed. While the campus buzzed about his backspin and follow-through, there was a different story playing out behind closed doors. Most thought he only majored in golf. What they didn't know was that Tiger was quietly double-majoring in economics and pre-law. By day, he was dissecting financial models. By night, he was ripping through case law. Marbury, Madison, with the same intensity he used to analyze Augusta's back nine. Professor Leland Myers, head of legal studies, once said, "He had the mind of a litigator, the discipline of an athlete, and the patience of a saint." Tiger didn't skip law school because he couldn't handle it. He skipped it because he'd already mastered the mindset. A montage flickers. Tiger hammering 300-yard drives at sunrise. Then, back in his dorm, glasses on, eyes locked on a tattered copy of the Federalist Papers. Mid-lecture, while others scribbled, he was already 10 steps ahead, cross-referencing precedents with policy. In every swing, strategy. In every argument, structure. He never bragged, he never posted, but he never stopped preparing. So when Judge Cole scoffed in court, assuming he was just another athlete fumbling through the law, he wasn't insulting an unarmed man. He was provoking a scholar in disguise. And that's the thing about underestimating someone who's been underestimated his whole life. You forget they've been planning for this moment all along. The fine hits like a slap. $5,000, just for trying to present evidence. But Tiger doesn't flinch, he doesn't argue. He simply straightens his shoulders and looks the judge dead in the eye. "Your Honor," he says, voice calm but carved from stone, "I would like to invoke my right to self-representation under Ferretta v. California, 422 U.S. 806. The courtroom freezes. A few reporters glance at one another, unsure of what they just heard. The gallery chuckles. The plaintiff's counsel lets out a scoff, scribbling something with theatrical indifference. Judge Cole leans forward, eyes narrowed. "You want to represent yourself?" he says with mockery soft enough to drip. "This isn't a locker room, Mr. Woods. It's federal court." Tiger doesn't blink. "Yes, sir, and I've read the ruling thoroughly. As a defendant in a civil matter where my reputation and financial standing are in jeopardy, I maintain the constitutional right to speak on my own behalf." Silence. Then the low buzz of tension cracking. Cole smirks. "You're going to cite Supreme Court precedent now?" Tiger simply nods once. "I already have. No theatrics, no bravado. Just precision." And in that moment something shifts. Not in the judge, but in the people watching. Because there's something unsettling about a man who's not rattled by humiliation, who answers insult with law. The judge thinks he's won already. He doesn't see what's happening. That Tiger didn't just walk into this courtroom unprepared. He built it. Brick by brick, rule by rule, and now, piece by piece, he's going to use every crack in that wall against the very man who tried to bury him under it. The courtroom settles into a wary silence as Tiger steps back to the podium. There's no lawyer by his side. No notepad, just a mind sharpened by years of discipline and a plan. "Your Honor," he begins, his voice crisp as a tee shot on a cold morning, "I would like to present Exhibit A, a breakdown of the plaintiff's corporate governance structure over the last 18 months. Whispers ripple across the gallery. The plaintiff's legal team shifts uneasily. Tiger clicks a remote. A screen lights up. Slide by slide, he dismantles the prosecution's timeline, using corporate bylaws, board appointment rules, federal oversight statutes. He cites Burwell v. Hobby Lobby, Caremark, and a little-known SEC enforcement bulletin from 2006. He moves like a surgeon, precise, methodical, unstoppable. Then comes the knockout. "According to their own documentation," Tiger says, gesturing to the board, minutes highlighted on screen, "they violated 3 corporate policies before I ever made a public statement. The breach wasn't mine, it was theirs." The plaintiff's lead counsel fumbles with his binder. He mutters to his co-counsel, then to the clerk. The rhythm of confidence is gone. Judge Cole shifts in his seat, his previously amused expression stiffening into something closer to contempt. But he doesn't interrupt, because he can't. Tiger keeps going, unshaken. "I may be standing alone, but I'm not standing unprepared." He turns slowly to face the jury. "And they say I'm out of my league?" He pauses, just enough to let the room lean in. "No, I built the course." And for the first time since the trial began, no one laughs. He waits until after lunch, until the courtroom thinks the fireworks are over. Then Tiger walks back to the center of the room, calm as ever. In his hand, a manila folder labeled Exhibit C. "Your Honor," he says, holding it out for the clerk, "I submit a series of emails, obtained legally through discovery, detailing internal communications among the plaintiff's executive board." The judge doesn't flinch, but the plaintiff's team does. The screen lights up again, and then the words begin to appear. "We need to make this Woods problem go away. Use the diversity controversy. He's already a lightning rod. This buys us time to clean up the books." Gasps erupt from the gallery. One juror shifts so hard in her seat, her pen clatters to the floor. The opposing attorney rises fast. "Objection! These are taken out of context and immaterial to the breach of duty claim." Tiger doesn't even blink. Rule 26, pre-trial disclosure. This material was submitted and acknowledged. Then he looks at the judge, steady and unshaken. And under Brady v. Maryland, 373 U.S. 83, any suppression of evidence favorable to the defense violates due process. These communications show motive, malice, and the intent to frame me to distract from financial misconduct. The judge opens his mouth. To deny? To delay? But the courtroom has already heard it. Tiger takes a step forward. I didn't leak these. They were buried in discovery. And I'm not going to let them be buried again. The air tightens. No one breathes. Not because they're stunned, but because they know. This is no longer a breach of contract case. This is a cover-up. And the man they tried to silence is now holding the receipts. And the room knows the game has changed. Tiger stands tall, hands lightly resting on the edge of the defense table, his eyes locked onto the jury, not with outrage, but with clarity. This case, he begins, voice low but sharp enough to cut steel, was never about fiduciary duty. It's about something deeper, something dirtier. He clicks the projector remote again. This time the screen fills with a timeline. One side marked with Tiger's board appointment dates. The other, redacted reports of internal financial mismanagement. And smack in the middle, the date of the alleged breach. I was asked to step in after 3 board members had already resigned. I didn't cause the fire. I walked into it. He turns, facing Judge Cole. And when I raised concerns about internal fraud, I was threatened with legal retaliation. I spoke publicly about diversity funding because silence was complicity. And for that, I was targeted. A pause. But this isn't just about corporate games, Tiger says, his tone darkening. This is about a system that punishes people who don't look the part. People who speak when they were expected to smile. Then he lifts a single paper, Section 455 of the United States Code. A judge must disqualify himself in any proceeding where his impartiality might reasonably be questioned. He holds it up. Your Honor, he says, cold and direct, your history of dismissing cases involving minority defendants isn't speculation. It's on record, and now it's part of mine. The courtroom doesn't stir. It implodes, because Tiger Woods just did the unthinkable. He put the judge himself on trial. Tiger reaches into his folder and pulls out a small black recorder. Simple, unassuming, deadly. This was recorded during our pre-trial conference in chambers, he says, holding it up. No edits, no manipulation. He presses play. A crackle, then a voice, Cole's voice. This guy thinks he can outlawyer me with Wikipedia. He's a golfer, not a damn lawyer. Give him a rule book and he'll use it as a coaster. The words are venomous, smug, racist undertones wrapped in a snide laugh. The courtroom goes silent, then the gasp. Reporters look at one another. Jurors stare wide-eyed. One woman on the panel blinks back tears. Another clutches her armrest like it's the only thing holding her upright. Even the court clerk, a woman who's typed through 100 trials, lowers her hands. Her eyes water. The tape ends. No music, no slam. Just the hollow echo of power exposed. Tiger looks at the judge. Nothing theatrical, just precision. Those weren't off-the-cuff remarks. They were your truth, he says. And that truth has no place behind the bench. Cole doesn't speak. He can't. His jaw is slack. His fingers tremble. The robe that once gave him armor now looks like a costume. The courtroom doesn't belong to him anymore. Tiger, standing alone, has just done the impossible. He silenced the gavel, with truth on tape. The judge's chambers remain sealed, but the courtroom, that's where the reckoning lands. Court will recess for 15 minutes, Cole mumbles, his voice barely audible, like a man trying to stall a freight train with a whisper. But it's too late. Before he even steps down, the door at the back creaks open. 2 sharply dressed officials from the Office of Judicial Oversight walk in, suits, badges, authority without noise. They approach the bench, not with a threat but with procedure. They show Cole the documents, then quietly escort him out. No gavel, no defense, just silence. And the end of his career. A new figure enters minutes later, Judge Mariana Tse, known for her ruthless precision and her refusal to tolerate drama in her court. She nods at Tiger, not warmth, just acknowledgement. Control has shifted, permanently. Across the aisle, the plaintiff's lead counsel is sweating through his collar. The air in the room feels different now. Accountability is real, and coming fast. He turns to Tiger's table during recess, lips tight, and offers what sounds like a peace treaty. We're prepared to discuss a settlement. Generous terms, discretion guaranteed. Tiger doesn't move. No, he replies, eyes steady. I didn't come here for hush money. I came for the truth. The lawyer tries again. Tiger stands. Tell your client, he says, folding his hands, if they wanted to walk away clean, they shouldn't have picked me to frame. In that moment, it's no longer about golf. It's no longer even about this courtroom. It's about what happens when the most underestimated man in the room walks in not with a club, but with the law. No fireworks, no courtroom theatrics, just Tiger Woods standing in front of 12 jurors and one unshakable judge. He adjusts his tie, breathes once, and begins. I didn't come here to play hero, he says. I came because silence is no longer an option, because too many people are told to stick to what they know, because I've been told that my place is on a course, not in a courtroom. A pause. I know who I am, and I will never again let any courtroom, any bench, or any bias decide my worth for me. He turns back to the table, sits, that's it, devastating, calm, final. The jury exits. Minutes pass. The room tightens like a held breath. Then they return. The foreperson stands. We find the defendant not liable. A beat. Case dismissed. No explosion of emotion. No fist pumps. Just Tiger's quiet exhale. Not relief. Resolution. As he gathers his papers, reporters flood toward him outside the courthouse, microphones bristling like bayonets. Mr. Woods, any comment? How does it feel? What's next? He turns, just once, and says, Respect is earned in silence, and I just earned yours. No smile, no wink. Just a man walking away from a courthouse that tried to bury him, and instead became the place where he rewrote the rules. The headlines would scream. The internet would explode. But Tiger Woods, he just kept walking. Because the game was never about the spotlight. It was about winning the only way that mattered, with truth. This story was intense. But the one waiting for you on the right? It's even more insane. Click it now. You won't believe what happens next.